Good morning, Mindful Meal Preppers! It is breakfast time. I'm going to be making modified Monte Cristo breakfast sandwiches with you all, and we're going to be talking about stress, my favorite thing to talk about in the morning. I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're not stressed out, but if you are, I want to cover today some stress management techniques that I neglected to share with you all yesterday, and then build off of that further with a more in-depth look at what we call the stress spectrum. So, without further ado, let's tie back our hair if we have to. We'll put on an apron if we've got one, and let's get cooking good looking. We've got a lot to learn today at Life's Table. So excited. I love French toast. It might be one of my favorite breakfast foods, period. At least on the sweeter side, French toast is typically what I go for. We will get started with a mixing bowl. And we'll just do a fork. And then let me get out my pan. We'll start off with like a medium low, but we'll probably lower it even further because eggs are very, very sensitive. And what we don't want to have happen is have the bread soak up eggs and then have the outside burn before the inside cooks and have that kind of like burnt, soggy combination. Not a fan. We will get started with our eggs. So we'll do 3 eggs. And what I'll also do to help add to this is put in a splash of milk. And what milk will do is help to add volume. We're looking at like probably a 1/4 cup of milk. What it does is it lightens up and fluffs up the eggs and then allows us to also use less of them. So we get to use fewer eggs, which are very expensive right now. All right. And I'm going to add just a touch of salt. Literally just, whoop, there we go. Because the ham is pretty salty, I don't think I need too much. Other things that you could add, if you have them, and if you do like the sweeter French toast flavoring, a dash of vanilla and a dash of cinnamon. And if you don't have, I promise it's still going to be delicious. It's still going to be tasty. So this is going to come together very quickly and very beautifully. All right, we're getting warm already. So I'm going to plop in just a little bit of butter. You want a nice little layer on the bottom so that the bread doesn't stick. And we'll go ahead and set aside 2 pieces of bread. And what we do with French toast, just in case you've never made, you do a very quick dip, make sure that egg is on both sides, and then you lay it into your pan like so. So we dip 1, dip 2, very quick, let it drain, and we place. Dip 1, dip 2, let it drain a little bit, and then place. What I like about these sandwiches as well is you can make them ahead and freeze them. I'm going to rinse off my hands. And I want to now build off of what we discussed yesterday by first having you call back to answering that question of how did you know you were stressed out? Because ultimately, this is one of the best stress management techniques that we have out there. And it is the idea of getting in tune with your body, giving yourself time to feel those cues, to process them and link them very, very intentionally as, okay, this is stress, or this is anger, or this is fear. Getting in touch with your body and what your body is communicating with you for any of these emotions that you are feeling or these stimuli that you are feeling. Because the sooner that you can cue into, oh, my body is no longer status quo, my body is no longer copacetic, it's no longer how I normally feel, the sooner that you can tap into that, the sooner that you can begin implementing other stress management techniques and other strategies to say, all right, let's act. If I wait until I am heart pounding, face flushed, breathing has changed, I am fully in flight or fight, that's not really a good time for me to attempt to have my logical brain, my prefrontal cortex kick in and say, okay, let's common sense and logic our way out of this situation. Because what is happening is as I go further and further into fight or flight, I go further and further into survival hindbrain mode of what is going to keep me alive, and let me focus on that. I need to get out of here right now, or I need to fight my way out of here right now. And that's not really the time to try to woo-saw your way back down. It doesn't work. It's not effective. So the earlier that we can tune into ourselves and say, oh, I think I'm stressed right now, the more opportunities we have to intervene and try to get ourselves calmed down to the point that we can manage and navigate whatever the situation happens to be. Get in touch with your feelings and what your body does when it feels those types of things. I'm gonna go in with my Swiss cheese so that can start melting, and we'll put our ham in the middle so that it can start warming up. But I'll do 2 slices of cheese and I'll do 2 slices of ham. I'm going to give 1 flip. Yeah. We'll give a nice little touch of heat on the ham directly. Nice little sizzle. Beautiful. Look at that cheese pull. Whoa. 1, 2. Let me get this cheese out of here so it doesn't burn. Moving on then to the different feelings that we have. We think of stress as a spectrum. It's a continuum. And what that means is that when there's nothing going on, when I'm bored, when I'm unmotivated, unchallenged, when I perhaps don't feel appreciated by my boss, by my loved ones, by my friends, right? When I feel apathetic, that just numb, dull feeling. When I'm unfocused, I can't even get my head in the game to begin to take on the projects that I need to take on. What that essentially amounts to is I'm not stressed enough. There isn't any reason for me to keep my own ball rolling. And so we kind of just end up stuck. We come to this grinding halt, and it is so detrimental to our mental health and our physical health because we're not meant to live like that. Giving a quick check. Ooh, nice. All right, we'll get our second slice of cheese on there. We'll get our second slices of ham on there. All right, I've got a little bit of egg left. I'll maybe be able to get 1 more out of this. The reasons why we probably feel in the blue, like I said, a lack of support, a lack of empathy from other people, right? If people don't care about me, it's really hard to motivate myself to continue to care about them or what they have going on. Poor leadership is a huge one, right? If you've got someone at work who micromanages you, or there isn't a lot of open communication, transparency, trust, that can be a huge cause of I'm shutting down. I just don't care. I have no interest in this. This is not what I want to be doing. This is not worth my time. This is not worth my energy. Being in the blue can be just as bad. Shutting down can be just as bad for us and for our health as ramping up and experiencing what we call distress, right? That overwhelming amount of negative stress that we feel. Let's see if we've got time for what we should be aiming for then. Awesome. The green, right? Green means go. Same thing with our cars. And we go from blue to red. The green is kind of the ideal place. We want to have just enough stress that the ball keeps rolling forward, that we keep moving, that we keep improving, that we keep working towards our goals, whatever they may be. But it's not so overwhelming. Perhaps we don't even feel like the stress is there, despite the fact that it is. All right, these are just about Again, another beautiful cheese pull. Let's get this cheese out of here. A little bit more butter for this last round. All right, so the green is the ideal. Think about those days where you've got a groove going. It's one of those days where like you clock in and like blink of an eye, 4 hours have passed and you've like hit your stride and you are flowing and you're going well. That for us, or at least for me, is the most obvious example of what the green is. We have found our flow. We are subjected to stress, right? There are still stimuli impacting me that push me and drive me forward, but I don't feel like I'm careening out of control. I'm motivated, I am enthusiastic, I am excited, I'm able to socialize and engage and be tapped in and tick all of the boxes of what needs to get done in my day. And it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And it's such that we don't feel stressed. Stress is still happening, but I don't feel it. They are not so overwhelming that I even notice it, that it's there. That is the green. And that is what we aim for, and that is what we are hoping to achieve, is that good stress. Just enough to keep us growing and changing and thriving, but not so much that it's overwhelming and not so little that we just turn off altogether. So let's then talk about what happens when we have like a last minute tasker come down the line, right? We're moving and grooving, we're having a great time. Again, we're able to like chat with the coworkers and enjoy our day. And then let's say the day is winding down, we're getting into like 3 p.m. and boss comes over and says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, but I've got this deadline that I totally forgot about. It's tomorrow. I need these reports by the end of the day from you so that I can spend tomorrow morning compiling them to then submit to my higher ups. And suddenly we then kick ourselves up into the yellow. And it's not an overwhelming amount of stress. It's not a crazy sort of overwhelming feeling at all. But suddenly I do feel stressed. I get a little more anxious. I get a little more irritable. The music that I was just dancing along to and singing and grooving suddenly is playing just a little too loud, and it's getting kind of annoying. And if you could please just turn it off, coworker, thank you. We begin getting into those feelings that we dislike, the uncomfortable feelings, the get up and go feelings, the act now to get me out of this situation feelings start happening. And so perhaps we start cutting corners. We start saying, oh, it's good enough, whatever, just send it on. That's the yellow. I feel stressed. And I'm not panicking. We're not in fight or flight yet, but stress is there and I feel it. When we are in the yellow, the goal is to get back to the green. The goal of all of this is to get to the green. Normally, this is a level of stress that I can woo-saw my way out of it on my own. If I ask you, what are some things that you like to do to help yourself de-stress? Hopefully your pan is not as messy as mine is, but golly, this looks so good. And we are finished. I do really want to know what your stress woo-saw, get me back to the green techniques are for yourself. A lot of people, I'm hoping, will say things like, I like to listen to music. I like to put on a movie or a show. I like to journal or write letters. If anyone here is a stress baker, hello, new best friend. I know personally, I like to clean. I start noticing how messy my house is when I'm stressed out. And so the act of cleaning and cleansing my external environment does kind of help me to better focus and concentrate on my internal environment. Going for long walks, working out, which we'll talk about why working out is so good for stress relief. And it's not just because like the doctor said so. Meeting the problem head on, addressing what is stressing me out directly. If it is a person, if it's a conversation that we had, if it's this project and this work deadline, nothing's going to make that go away besides just diving into it and doing it. So here we go. Some of us might say, I like to go for a drive. Some of us might say things like, I like to have a drink or I like to have a smoke. Those are stress management techniques, right? They're not recommended ones. I'm not going to say, go ahead, keep it up, more power to you. But at the end of the day, there is a reason, and we'll talk about that in a future video. But with that, I think I'm very satisfied and happy with what we've covered today. I hope that you are too. I hope that you are enjoying this. We are going to be talking about stress for the rest of this month. Hopefully you're learning some things about yourself already. Hopefully you can start practicing and implementing, hey, I'm stressed, right? Listening to my body, listening to my thoughts, listening to my reactions to my coworkers and saying, okay, this is what it feels like. Let me really understand and study this so that I can begin to implement other stress management techniques in the future. And with that, thank you for taking care of you today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you enjoy. It smells really good in here. I'm so excited for this, and I hope that you are too. Bon appetit. One final note, in case your pan looks like mine does, or perhaps even crazier, fill it with a little bit of water to cover the base and then put it back on the hot burner to heat. And what that does then is that hot water will force a soak. As it soaks, it'll loosen up the things that are stuck to your pan, and that should help with the cleanup process immensely. Right. Time for the taste test. I feel like y'all don't believe me when I say everything is delicious, but I think it's delicious, and I hope that you all do. But thank you all for taking care of you today. Thank you for taking time to make yourself some delicious breakfasts. I hope you do enjoy. Bon appetit.